Good morning, everybody. Hi, this is Vipul Dayal. I am one of the admins here on the Hotel Motel Owners and General Manager Forum. Now we call it officially the HMB Forum for short. So thank you very much for joining. Hopefully, not hopefully, we are going to do some of these live education series more often here. I don't know if you noticed in the past 6 months or so, we've added a new banner. We've kind of consolidated things. And we're bringing you more education. We're bringing you more products because as the group gets bigger, we're trying to have exclusive products and sponsorships and information and education in the group. So thank you very much for joining. I want to introduce you to the person who's making all those changes, Sara Pugh. Is she here? Yeah, hi. She's our community manager, and she's taking care of the whole forum. If you have any questions, I'm sure she'll send you a link here. But thank you very much, Sara, for all that you have done for the forum. We've seen amazing changes.
Good morning, people. Thank you for such a great introduction. What I was really hoping to accomplish for our community is giving a voice for 19,000 owners and operators, and we want to be able to negotiate exclusive offering and exclusive pricing for our group because we're such a big community that we should have exclusive offers, right? So we actually have some things coming down the pipeline in the next week. You're going to see what you already have exclusive pricing on, and the way you can register for that is actually to make sure that we have your email address to verify that you are a member of our community, and we're going to be sharing that link for you to register. Today is really special. We actually have a guest from the Center for Respectful Leadership. So if you participated in our survey, we wanted to know, hey, how can we help? Are you looking for ways to increase your revenue? Are you looking for ways to retain your talent? Are you looking, how can we help? And so one of the votes that actually had a lot of votes was you want to know how to retain your talent. We have an amazing partnership with the Center for Respectful Leadership, and Gregg, who's an award-winning author, is actually going to give us some tips on what we can do to be respectful leaders and increase our revenue by retaining our talent. People, have you had instances in you're a third generation hotelier, is retaining your staff difficult? Is it costly?
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially in the hotel business, because we do see a high turnover in our industry in general, actually. So this would be great information today.
What would it be like if you had this faithful crew that felt ownership of the hotel the way you do and would stay late, go the extra mile? Like, how would that change things for you, and how would that change things for your guests?
Well, for the guest, you could see big changes because it's going to be, if there's going to be a bunch of me's running around, then it's going to be so beneficial for the guests because they'll get to see all the little touches and all the little extra things that we do for the guests. So the answer to your question is very important, 100%. Yeah. So I'm excited to learn to see what Gregg has to offer.
Awesome. So we actually have access to some really, really amazing training, and Gregg's going to explain some of his tips and then give us access to his coursework that's exclusive for HMB Forum. No one has ever seen this content before, so we're really lucky to be first in, beta testers. And people, do you have any questions for Gregg to start off with?
No, not yet. Hi, Gregg.
Hi, Gregg.
How you doing?
Yeah, thank you very much for this exclusive offering to our members.
Are you kidding? Absolutely. It's so good to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Living life here.
You're living the dream, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. What else can we do? I've learned that if you live in San Diego, you cannot complain because then people get upset. They're like,
that's true. That's true. That's true. Yeah. And they say it never rains in Southern California, but it pours. And this weekend it's going to pour, but we're not going to complain. We're just gonna roll with it.
Exactly. So thank you very much for coming on and
thank you.
Yeah, teaching our members. Like Sarah mentioned, this is exclusive. First time ever that you're doing this?
Yes, this is it. You're the first, and we are honored to have you. And so thank you really from the bottom of my heart for being the first one. We really appreciate it. So what can I tell you? That I'm ready to go.
Yeah, do it.
So Gregg, I actually polled our community in the last week and said, what is it that you want the most? And it was so funny because you see like, okay, number 1 spot, retention. And then the number 2 spot was revenue. And then revenue was beating, retention. So those 2 things really go hand in hand in the work that you do. And I want you to speak to my community as if you're right in front of them. Right now, you're talking to hotel, motel, and boutique owners and operators. And every day we solve operational challenges in our community. You'll see people popping in like, hey, this thing broke, or I need more of this, or how do I clean this, or how do I save money on that? And everybody's helping each other. So thank you for coming in and helping us.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you, everyone, for having me on board. I will say that I've had many clients in the hospitality industry, and I feel your pain. I feel your pain because not only are you serving your guests, but you're also, as leaders, trying to serve your team. And you know full well that if your team doesn't feel well served, then your guests won't feel well served. And so one of the things that we have learned, and our data really supports this, and our research really supports this, is when your staff feel respected by the leaders of your organization, of your hotel, your motel, your property, when your staff feel respected, that automatically transfers right over to your guests. And the guests pick up on that as well. So there's this wonderful kind of magical loop between you as a leader treating your staff with respect and your staff treating the guests with respect. So that benefits everybody, especially when the AC goes out and it's the middle of the night, or there's a whole unit goes down, a whole block of rooms go down because the power's out. Somebody was digging a pipe out in the roadway, and suddenly you've lost power, or your phones go out. It happens, right? It happens all the time. And so when your staff feel respected by you, part of that is they feel empowered by you to be able to say to the guests, no problem, we'll take care of it. And for your inconvenience, here's what we can do for you. And they give them a cookie, they give them a bottle of water, they give them something, they give them some points, whatever you can give them. It shows the guests that they feel very respected. So it's about empowering your staff to feel respected by you, and they will feel respected, and your guests will feel respected by them.
Do you remember the employee? I want to say maybe he was like in Texas, and it was during this like either a flood or a hurricane, and he ended up serving breakfast for like everyone that was trapped in the hotel. Vipul, do you remember?
Huh. Oh,
do you remember that? I want to say it was like a DoubleTree or a Hilton property, but this kid was like young, like super young, and he figured out like how to do the eggs. I mean, he like guests were pitching in to help him make breakfast. He was running the front desk. He was running breakfast. He was, making sure that everybody had all by himself because people couldn't get to work, and he was stuck there with everyone who was checked in, right? But just imagine if he didn't have the respectful leaders ahead of him saying, these are your guests. This is your home. This is your business. Right. Imagine if he had a boss that was like, treated him like crap, and he was punching in, punching out, and didn't feel the responsibility to take care of those people.
He would have stayed behind the front desk and just shrugged his shoulders and say, sorry, folks, it's a hurricane. No breakfast today. Not my problem. Right.
Gregg, you bring up a great word, empowerment. I actually love that word. 4 Seasons, I believe it's 4 Seasons, or maybe the Ritz-Carlton, one of those chains. They give each employee, no matter who it is, and they give them, I think, up to $2,000 to fix any issue,
anything
that they want for the guests. So they empowered their people to solve any kind of issue.
Absolutely. If you don't mind my telling a story about a Ritz, I was in the Ritz in Washington, D.C. A couple of years ago, and there were some guests in the room next to me who decided to have a raucous party in their room at about 2:30 in the morning, and glass was breaking. I was obviously woken up, and I'm like, what the heck? And it was really disruptive to the entire floor. And the night staff knocked on my door very politely, and because they knew I was awake, and said, "Mr. Ward, we have another room prepared for you. Would you like to move?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, I would." And they sent a staff member in to help me pack everything up and move me over. They put me in a frickin' suite, and yeah. And because it was really all they had available, they didn't have any regular rooms, which is what I was in. So they put me in a suite. And they also gave me, I think they gave me, they're part of the Marriott chain. They gave me 5,000 Marriott points, rewards points, just for my inconvenience. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay with you every time I come to DC. And I'm going to tell everybody I know that this is the way I got treated. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Empowerment.
The empowerment.
That's a great story. But you know what? Even if you don't work at the Ritz-Carlton,
Right.
if you don't have a budget of $2,000, can I just say that, like, I have 7 years in hospitality and serving guests on the sales side, right? So I'm selling a brand, and when my guests stay, whether it's in Florida or Hawaii or New York, and they have a bad experience, guess who hears about it? Right? They reach out to me and they're like, I'm mad. I didn't feel special when I checked in. And so I typically reach out to a property manager and say, hey, is there any way you could just, touch bases with this guest, acknowledge that they've checked in. Sometimes it's just making people feel special at check-in. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to have your room ready. It's the delivery. Right. And I've had people go, oh my gosh, they brought me waters. They brought me a fruit plate. Like, what does a fruit plate cost? What does it cost to bring waters to their room or say, is there anything I can do for you? And I know that COVID has a lot of we can't be the touchy feely people because there's no contact check-in, no contact, but you can still deliver the message in a way that's really warm and inviting and appreciative. Yeah. People feel that. Yeah.
I was in
now. You need to say oh my gosh, thank you for staying with us. How much time does it take to do that? Yeah. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we're so glad that we did take this vacation, even though we were leery about getting on a plane. We were scared to drive. We were scared to travel. We're afraid of getting sick, but they still did.
Yeah. Right? I was in a budget property just last month on a trip, and they had the plexiglass things up, and what they did is they usually had a buffet breakfast kind of thing, but instead they packed a breakfast for every guest. And then the staff in the morning, they would ask you the night before, do you want us to deliver it? Do you want us to pick it? Do you want to come to the front desk and pick it up? What would you like? And so I had this little thing on my desk in my room that said, how do you want your breakfast? Now, it was a continental breakfast. It wasn't hot, and that's fine. But I said, well, deliver it. So sure enough, knock, knock, knock. Here came my breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's exactly what I wanted. It was so they just made the little extra effort, and it just shows respect for your guest. And when your staff feel that way about themselves and their leadership, it's a win-win-win-win-win. That's what we're trying to do with our programs that you have so graciously accepted under your wing. It's essentially helping people understand about the nature of respect, that it is an emotional thing. It's not a cognitive thing, that it comes from the heart, and it matters. And people remember being respected because they get, there's some neuroscience inside of it. And I won't bore you with that, people, but I will tell you that we don't need to think about respect as much as we need to feel respect, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there anything, people, in your properties that you felt like you went above and beyond for your employees to give them that empowerment and have them feel respected?
Yeah. My managers, I used to give them involve them in decisions that usually that they're not necessarily prepared for. Because they're like, oh, well, you allow me to hire somebody, because usually we do the hiring internally, but I pushed
So
them.
There's a name for that, people. It's called informational respect.
Yes.
And that's like a whole nother level. Gregg, tell people about informational respect.
So what our colleagues in Latin America did some research with major corporations there, and what they found is there's a part of respect that's called, as Sara said, informational respect. So essentially, when you're telling your managers, go ahead, you have permission to hire the people that you think best, rather than retaining it back in your recruitment center, the managers feel like they've been given the power to approach the hiring in a way that they think best, rather than just having to say, yes, sir, do whatever you tell them to do. So you've given them enough information. You say, look, okay, when you're going to hire a director of catering, you're going to hire somebody who's qualified, but we're not going to tell you the exact person you can hire. Here's the boundaries around which you can operate. Here's the guidelines. And then you let them take it. So they have enough information to feel like they can make the decision themselves, rather than no information and they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. So the more you can be transparent with what you want them to know and what they want to know, the more likely they are to feel respected by you.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do want to welcome another admin who has joined, who helped put this all together, Timesh Patel. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to him, because he helped organize and put this together, and he's also another admin on the site. So thank you.
Good morning. I see Rika. I see. Oh my gosh, we have
Melody's on.
Yeah, we're not only in our group, we are also featuring this on LinkedIn Live through the center channel. So we have a lot more eyeballs than we would normally have. So thank you, Gregg, for sharing with your community.
Thank you. If I may, could I talk a little bit about, you brought up right at the beginning the retention issue and how important it is keeping good people working with you. So what our research has told us is that if you have an organization where people feel respected, your retention is very, very high. Now, we all know, what is turnover in hospitality? It's roughly 50%, correct? Or 49, something that's kind of normal in hospitality. Now, COVID is different, but still, sooner or later, we're going to get back to some kind of normalcy, and turnover is going to be very high. What's really interesting is you look at certain properties and you start walking around, and I've had this experience. I walk around the property and I'm Mr. Chit Chat. I'll get to know anybody. So I start talking to the guy who's doing the gardening outside. And I'm like, how long have you been with the property? Oh, about 15, 20 years. Really? Really? You like working? Oh, I love working here. They're really great to me. They treat me well. I feel respected. And so when I start meeting people on a property who've been there 15, 20, 25 years, I know before I even meet the GM, before I even meet the owners, that is a culture of respect, because the people have been there. They love working there. And you know what? They may not be the highest paid. They could jump across the street to the higher or a 5-star property, maybe get a job over there, but they would prefer to stay in the property where they feel respected. And so it's like plain as day.
People don't leave for money.
No, they really don't.
Really loyal, loved people will work for less money because of the way they feel. They will not leave because next door will pay them $1 more or $3 more. They won't. They feel like they're part of your family if you make them part of your family.
Yeah, it's often what I hear from staff. They'll say, I feel like I'm part of a family here. And yeah, if you've suffered through hurricanes, power outages, phones being down, guests throwing up in your lobby, and you're all cleaning up together, you're part of a family, right? I mean, you kind of seen it all together. And if you treat each other well, everybody's going to be more resilient, and everybody's going to be loyal, and they're going to shrug off that horrible stuff that sometimes happens, and they're going to be okay. But if in a property where they don't feel respected, and one horrible thing, and one guest comes in and reams them a new one, right? And they're going to go to their manager. You know what? I'm out of here, and I'll go find some other place to work because you don't have my back. And that's so important, especially in hospitality. That's about the most important place it has to be.
One tip I learned long time ago when I first started, when I moved from the corporate world into my own business world, was hire people like yourself. And I've used that throughout.
Well, certainly hire people that have the same kind of attitude as yourself, right?
Yes,
exactly. Same kind of outlook on the world.
Yes.
And we also want to surround ourselves, like I have with Sara, with people who are much smarter than we are in certain areas and know a lot more about certain things. I know very little about what Sara knows about, but she helps me enormously. And so I'm grateful to have her on board.
Oh, thanks, Greg. So, Vipul, what are other little things that you would say are like nuances that you do in your business that maybe other people don't do?
In terms of just overall,
how do people feel respected, like on a operation on a daily basis? Like, how do you engage? Like, there's times where things are tense and maybe the information isn't, you're not happy, but how do you handle those moments differently so that you can maintain that respect with your team and not lose their faith in you?
So one thing I love is technology. I love technology. So we have this new platform that we signed up for. And I believe they're going to become a sponsor of this group.
Don't say the name; it's a secret.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the name, but I think they might become a sponsor of the group. But so we actually track performance. I would say performance management, I guess, is what the technical term is. But we send out an email once a month to all our employees. Hey, we communicate. That's the big word, I think. In all of this is communication back and forth. Even during COVID, when I had to lay off everybody, we still kept weekly calls every Sunday. Hey, how are you? I understand you're not on my payroll, but I want to check in on you.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah, we gave them all grocery cards for groceries.
Wow.
Yeah, just it's just like you said, I want
to people. You don't understand. You checking in with your people is
even though they don't work for you. Oh my goodness.
I worked for a Fortune 50. I didn't even get an email, much less a text message like, oh, hey, how are you doing? You're invited to blah, like nothing, crickets.
But that's what this class is about, right? That's what Gregg is trying to teach, being the leader.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so impressed that you did that because, of course, you had 10,000 things you had to do and here you take time out of your day to reach out to people who no longer even work for you. You help them out. You gave them something of value. And many of I don't know if I bet you a lot of them are still out of work. Yeah. And so I know, knowing you, that the moment things get better, you're going to call them up and say, come back, let's go. Right.
We have as much as we can. We retained a lot of them. And they stayed, like 99% of them came back to us. So, which is great.
Part of gold, people, and that shows in how you treat other people.
What?
Your values, that aligns so much with the respectful leader, that value of taking care of your people. Maybe you heard of, there was a movement back in the 70s called servant leadership. You may have heard of it, people. Yeah. And in a way, respectful leadership and servant leadership work hand in glove, because servant leadership is all about taking care of the people who work for you, taking care of the organization, being the steward of the organization. And respectful leadership is very similar in that regard, where your job is to treat everyone with respect in a way that they feel valued and supported by you as the leader. And all of our research tells us that this comes back to you in such a good way: loyalty, increased retention, less complaints, less HR problems. The list is very long of the business case for respectful leadership. So I am just so impressed by you. I am so honored that you would take us on and be our first. And so, Sara, take it away. Tell them how to make it work.
I want to first say thank you to Kush Patel for sharing with his network this morning. The more people that we can get this message out to, the more people we can help. I also want to show where you can actually find information about the courses through Vipul's website, which is meetvipul.com/HMB Forum Respectful Leader. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So these are the 3 basic courses that you can start off with. Whether you want to learn about how to be respected, how to lead respectfully, or how to run a respectful organization, we have a course for you. And normally, if you were going to hire a Fortune 50 coach like Gregg, you're going to spend the big bucks. But having access to this content is $49. Okay. The other major reason why this is an expense that you can't afford to not spend is in the event that, God forbid, that you are under fire for a lawsuit, whether it's discrimination or sexual harassment. These are things that fundamentally, if you're going to bring on leadership, it should be like a check the box. As they get onboarded, they go through this process. If you've seen big names in the headlines like McDonald's with a $500 million lawsuit, they band together all of these separately owned locations and said all these people had these instances and they won a class action lawsuit. Yeah. So one of the really interesting pieces of research that the Center for Respectful Leadership actually got out of the Latin America project was that they surveyed people in different levels of their careers, whether they were entry-level employees, whether they were facility staff, whether they were management. And the saddest thing that I heard in this report was that people in cleaning roles, janitorial roles, expected to be disrespected at work.
Yep.
Like they expect it. In fact, yesterday I was in a retail shop and there was a woman cleaning the floor and she didn't make eye contact with anyone. It was like she was invisible. And I go, "Hi, how are you today?" And she looked scared as hell. Like, yeah. Are you talking to me? It was like, yeah, I see you. How are you today? It was just knowing, like, those stories of knowing who your cleaning people are, because you never know, like, when they're going to come to your rescue or when, that person is going to be your hero. It's amazing, though, that feeling disrespected at work and expecting to feel disrespected at work are 2 different things. I don't think that I want to run any kind of organization where people feel disrespected at work. And I certainly wouldn't want to risk my livelihood, and I don't think people would want to risk his livelihood if, God forbid, someone was mistreated at work and sues the company, and now his perfect, work family relationship is ruined because there's this unjust moment that could have been preventable, right? There's no reason to ever be in that situation because these are skills that we're not born with, right? We have to actively learn them.
Yeah, and they're not hard. They're simple.
Yeah,
they're simple skills.
You learned by example, right? Yep. Wouldn't you say you've done a lot of work on yourself to learn all these extra things that you didn't get from your parents?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I want to piggyback on something you said just a few minutes ago about it. God forbid you get hit with some kind of lawsuit. If your staff, your managers, for example, have taken the Respectful Leader course that we're offering, your attorneys can basically say, Your Honor, we had all of our managers go through this program, and that contributes to what the lawyers call your affirmative defense. So that you can say, hey, we're doing this. We're paying attention to this. We care about this. Yes, the employee's suing us, but we want you to know it's not like we're not paying attention to this kind of stuff. We think it's important. And that helps enormously in the eyes of the court for you as a leader of your organization, you are paying attention. You do care, and that makes a big difference to a judge when they go to make a ruling.
Absolutely. So in closing, I want to say a few things. If you're looking to sponsor HMB Forum and get your business in front of almost 19,000 owners and operators, make sure that you comment sponsor. We will come find you and send you an invite and get you more information. If you would want more information about the courses, comment respect, and we will come find you and get you the link. But I want to say thank you, Gregg, for today. This is amazing. Thank you, Vipul, for having the Center for Respectful Leadership, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Take care.